So what you're gonna do first is you just need to kind of decide like how far up you want the hat to start. These ones, I'm gonna bring them down just a little bit lower. That way I have the right amount of space because the pieces for the beards are about 2 inches wide. So, like right there, that's gonna be perfect. So I'm gonna bring this down maybe just a little bit lower than halfway. So I'm gonna use that same navy that I used on the sample one. We're just gonna kind of draw a line across there. You don't have to worry about this being exact because it's gonna get covered up with the fur. So as long as it's kind of close all the way around, that'll be perfect. So we're gonna bring this line right across here. So we're just using one of these regular brushes, small brush, to do a nice coat. I know my gnome's not so pretty. We pulled out the not so pretty ones for me to do as my samples tonight. He's gonna look great by the end of it. We're gonna spiff him up. He's gonna be real good. So again, we're gonna draw a line across here. This rough cut side's gonna take a little bit more paint than the smooth sides will. Just a nice thin coat. And then we're just gonna connect that line all the way across here. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. All right. There we go. So I'm just gonna stand him up to dry for a minute and see how that navy starts doing. I'm gonna check out my navy again. So you can see kind of how this is drying. You probably want a second coat on this one. I'm just gonna do a second coat just on the front, but in a perfect world, we'll do some on the edges. I would go in and do a coat on everything. For the sake of time, I'll just do just the front. And a little more on the edge. All right, and then I'm gonna use Fireworks Green as the base for him. I'll rinse my brush off. And so now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna paint the green here at the bottom and just kind of take it up to meet where that blue line starts. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. So all this is doing is kind of creating the effect of a hat and then like his body down below. A lot of this though is gonna get covered up by the fur. So you can see like on the front, you can barely see any of that green, mostly just on the edges and the back. So don't worry too much about getting that perfect. We just wanna do it the best we can so that it gives that effect. And same thing, just gonna kind of follow along that line that we already started with the blue. And same thing on the edge. If you want to rough up your gnomes, like this one's roughed up just a smidge. We use that fine grit paper around the edges just to kind of smooth everything out. Gives it a little definition. And then if your gnome is kind of pokey at the top, which this one was, just because this one was our not so lovely sample piece, you can kind of smooth that out a little bit. There's one. Now would be a good time if you are working on these ones, plug in your hot glue gun. We are getting ready for those next. And then you're gonna want a little bit of wax. Everything, as a rule of thumb, everything that has paint needs wax. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going. If you painted it, you want to wax it. The wax helps protect the colors from fading over time. It's gonna make that finish a little bit more durable. If you have little fingers like me, little friends with little fingers that are gonna come and pull all your ornaments off your tree with their sticky fingers, that's gonna help with that. Keep an eye when you're waxing too with red, that way you don't transfer the red dust or the red dye onto other projects. You're just gonna wanna use a clean part of your rag for that. And then if you're feeling like maybe you're using too much wax, you just wanna make sure that it feels nice and smooth. Sometimes people can use too much wax. One thing that you can do if you want to make your wax go a little bit farther is put it on a microwave safe plate, a little dollop on there, and heat it up for like just a few seconds. Like I wouldn't think more than 10 seconds. And it's gonna really kind of not melt that down, but soften it up a little bit. So it's almost more like an oil, and it'll be a little bit easier to brush on for you. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get these beards on here. I'm gonna, again, give us a clean piece, just because I don't wanna get any of that paint in our beards. No paint in our beards. So we're gonna do white, because our other one's gray, so let's do a white one. So in your bag, you're just gonna have some pieces, different pieces of fur in there. This one looks a little bit better. So what happens when we cut these apart is it's gonna have some kind of frayed edges at the top. That's okay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of separate out anything that's loose, and I'm gonna show you how I used that to make almost like a mustache for our gnome. You'll see on this one, he's got some pieces that are kind of going off to the side. I've seen people use it above the nose so that it looks kind of like eyebrows. You can do that too. But just know that if you have things that are kind of sticking off, go ahead and pull those off. That's okay if those are kind of hanging off. So this is gonna be another spot where you're probably gonna want some scissors, just because we don't want too much of this netting that's holding everything together. We don't want this kind of hanging over the edges of our shape here. So I'm gonna trim this side up just a little bit. And kind of right across the top. And then we're gonna use these loose bits to come back in and kind of cover that up. So the first thing we're gonna do with our main part of our beard is we're gonna put some hot glue on the back. And you can always trim off as much of this as you need. So I'm gonna see how this looks to start. Pretty good so far. So if you do like the white line on there for the Santa hat, ooh, that's what I was gonna do at the top. A little bit of white, I can still go in and do that. Just make sure that this kind of goes right up where that line's gonna be. And then just look for anything that's still a little bit loose. We wanna make sure that all of that gets down really well. Give him a little grooming. Grooming that beard up. All right. Got a little glue in here, I'm gonna cut that part out. So we're just gonna kind of comb him out a little bit. We're gonna fluff him so that it's kind of going across these edges here. And then if you're feeling like this is too long, you can always trim some of that back off too. All right, so I'm gonna take just like a little clump of this hair here and kind of do a dollop of glue at the top to kind of connect it together. I'm gonna use, you can use either like a toothpick or even a little pencil. Kind of put this together, and then we're just gonna take this and kind of push it down right on the top here, almost so it's like sticking out to the side. You might end up having to do a little bit more glue. And then afterwards, we're gonna come in with the little ball, the wood ball, and we're gonna put the nose right on top of there. That way it looks like this is kind of sticking right underneath it. And this is also helping to cover up kind of that netting, that line where we glued the beard down at first. Another little chunk. Little dollop of glue. Connect these up a little bit. Press them down on this side. You might find it easier to put the glue down on the wood piece first than to put them on the actual little pieces of the beard, whatever works best for you. I'm gonna do just a smidge of wax on this just because it feels a little not so smooth. I'm gonna brighten this color up a little bit too. All right, so then this part, I did not paint 100% the back of it. That way, I can do a little bit of glue on here. Wouldn't have to put wax on there either. Just kind of leave that unfinished. Stop it right now, look at this. Oh, that's cute. Super cute. Love it. Grinchy little gnome. And then if you're thinking, because we had some people say that they were going to do these like as shelf sitters, or if you're wanting to hang it, use a piece of twine or really anything. You could use ribbon on these ones too. Flip it over, little dollop of glue up here at the top. My glue stick is like brand new, fresh, and wanted to stick out. And then just kind of stick your twine right in there. Let that dry on there. There we go. Just trying to press that down in there without it popping off too much. Oh. You're probably gonna need a lint roller after this project too, just from all these little beard hairs sticking on there. So just make sure that's on there pretty good. You might have to glue it more than one time. Again, if you're just gonna pop them on a shelf, they don't even need anything on the back. There we go, Grinchy little gnome. All right, let's finish this guy up, and then we're gonna finish up that bar, and that'll be our last one. So this one, again, we're gonna trim off some of the edge here. We're gonna kind of pull off anything that feels loose. This one doesn't have as much. And the netting on this one isn't as noticeable. So we could even trim this down just a little bit. Yeah. Here we go. So we had as color options the white, which is this one, and then the Grinch green. Thanks, Shelly. And then the minky, it's like a minky gray, but it kind of fades out to white. That's the one on the sample one. I like that one. It's got some color variation to it. He's like a gnome that's going gray and white. He's very distinguished gnome. So I'm gonna come back in here and cut a little bit more of this off. So you can see on the bottom of mine, I've got a good bit of that netting still that's hanging off. So you could always come in and cut a little bit of that off. Just know you're gonna lose some of this bottom layer of fur down there. A little bit more glue here. Fan them out a bit. Okay. same thing. This time I'll do the glue kind of right across there. It's hard when those little pieces, beard pieces, get stuck in there. Press that down in there. Pull this stuff off. Let's see if I got, here's a little extra fluff. Can always find some extra fluff on another piece. Push that one there. This one we did not paint a nose. We're just doing regular, unfinished nose. There we go. White bearded gnome. And then same thing, if you wanted to do the hook on the back or the hanger, you could do a little dab of glue at the top. He's got a good long beard. Long bearded gnome, love it.